Welcome to another edition of Family Life with Mama Rita. Good evening to my wonderful viewers. Last week I had a wonderful lady here, Reverend Lawyer Jifa Kakleji. She said so many deep things and I'm not sure she was done. There's so much. I mean, she was loaded. This week, I brought her back to discuss again and into details about domestic violence. But before I bring her on, please watch this.
You are in November, you passed over. In October, you made it. Now you are in December. Can I speak to somebody? Look at somebody, say, I cannot die. Say, I cannot die. Say, I will live
to declare. No! No, it's not okay, Barbara. It's not okay. You cannot defend him. It's not okay.
Call the cops.
Do you see what he just did? No, Barbara. No, Barbara, I'm tired of you. No, I'm tired of you now. No, absolutely not. Do you? I know that I understand. I get it.
Harry, stop. We are not going to fucking come down. I came in here and I told you sit back. I told you we are not here to argue with you. Why did you fucking attack her? Why did you attack her?
Can you come down?
I'm not going to come down because you started this. Here, let me go. You're going to go to the other room and you're not going to come out.
Barbara, what about that one?
Fuck you up. I'm telling you.
Barbara, that folder.
That's the divorce document.
Get up and go to your fucking room.
No.
I don't know what the fuck is wrong
Barbara,
with you.
move.
Keep acting up, I'll fuck you up. No, try me.
All right.
Try me.
Okay.
Try me. All right. Try me.
No, it's all right. Why? It was unnecessary.
Don't give him the chance to bring these things.
Don't do that, Barbara. What if you came here by yourself?
You spoiled yourself, all right? But isn't this the same sister that you fucked up?
What did I fuck up about my sister?
Yeah.
What did I fuck up about my sister?
Perry, what did I tell you? Let him go in the room.
Perry, leave
Perry.
him alone. Perry, leave him alone.
You should go. We don't need this right now.
Okay. All right. But you are the same person who supported me at the wedding, right?
I will fuck you at the wedding because you were fake. You were fake.
That's the
You
one.
were lying.
Perry.
You were fake. You and everybody that follows you. You were fake. I
That's
supported
the
you because I told you were different.
So now you
I
are
told you
here
are not like your
to support
family.
your sister.
Yes, I'm here to support
The
my
same sister
And I'll
who
always
the
support
pastor told you that she was a witch.
Which pastor?
Am
Name
I
that
right?
pastor. Name that pastor. Which pastor told me my sister's
The same sisters.
Which pastor? Name the pastor. You are a pastor. You don't know whether you are or not. You are a pastor, my friend. Get the fuck out of here before I fuck you up. We didn't come here for you. We did not come here for you. Don't let me hurt you. Leave. We didn't come here for you. We came to get something.
Can I promise you something?
Promise me.
If I don't kill your sister, then me, I am fake.
You got the video, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Right, call the cops.
No, it's
No, call the cops, Jen. No.
Barbara,
Tanya.
stop that.
Tanya, you don't play with threats like this. Jen, I'm calling the cops. No, you don't play with threats. Please call the cops.
only going to escalate.
It should escalate. He's threatening you in front of me. He said he's going to kill you. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
All right, just make sure it's there so we can go. If that's it, let's go. Let's just get the hell out of here.
Is it it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure let's get out of here. We ain't coming here no more, Barbara. You lost all
You
this.
heard what he said?
Is there anything else you need to get? Barbara, we're done.
Whatever you want to get.
Yeah, we're done. Oh, you lost all this.
No, I'm going to come back for it.
You gonna come back for what? No, it's okay. It's okay, Barbara. It's another debt that can be paid off. Debt is debt. You cannot replace debt with life, and vice versa. It's gone. This ain't yours no more. Imagine if you come here by yourself.
Even with us over here, he still attacked you. Fabian, don't play with these things.
Why is this a
You
joke to
may not
you?
want to have him arrested, but you have to make a police report. You have to have a police report for future sake. The police need to make a report.
No, I'm going to use this so you can get a restraining order.
Yeah.
You,
And make sure he's not coming in. Can you come look for my glasses, family? Look for my glasses so I can make sure he's not coming in. It fell over there when we scuffled.
Watch your car. Make sure he's not doing anything.
Oh, I'll fuck him up.
don't go outside. Just look.
Reverend Jifa, welcome to the studio once again.
Thank you.
Last week, there was so much you spoke about DV. Even in the definition, I realized that I didn't give you a chance. When I got home, my lawyer daughter told me I was cutting you too much. So today, I am not going to cut you. I will give you the chance to flow. When we talk about DV, is there anything you left out? I knew you were talking about harassment and all that. Maybe we could go a bit into that and then we can continue.
Thank you for having me once again. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, we talked about a lot of actions which, if committed in the context of a domestic relationship, would amount to domestic violence. We talked about physical abuse, we talked about sexual abuse, emotional, economic, etc. So I'll just take a bit of time to focus on harassment.
Okay.
Because again, I realize that a lot of people think domestic violence is basically physical
That's right.
abuse.
That's
all
right.
So the law also says that harassment could be domestic violence.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to read what it says and explain
Okay.
as we go along. So it has defined harassment to mean sexual contact without the consent of the person with whom the contact is made. 1, repeatedly making unwanted sexual advances.
Okay.
3, repeatedly following, pursuing, or accosting a person,
Okay.
or making persistent and welcome communication with a person. Persistent and welcome communication with a person, which includes watching, loitering.
Watching.
Yes.
So when you are
the
watching
person.
somebody, hey, the
Persistent.
people who have been watching me, the studio guys, please, I'm going to report you for harassment.
So, watching, loitering outside or near a building
Wow.
where the harassed person resides. So let's say that you are interested in me. You have, sexual, feelings towards me, shall we say. And in your bid to convince me to enter that relationship with you, you insist on communicating with me, making advances at me in a manner which is unwelcome to me, which I do not want.
Uncomfortable for you.
Exactly, uncomfortable for me. So I come out of my house and you are there. I go to work, I come out, you are there. I'm going to have lunch, you appear on the spot. Instances like that. Then
But why would that be domestic violence?
because number one, for the purposes of the act, do we have a domestic relationship? And then you bring in the actions. Does it amount to harassment? So you are sending me text messages. You are calling me, and let me read B to bring it to bear. It says repeatedly making telephone calls or inducing a third person to make telephone calls to the harassed person, whether or not conversation ensues. So, for instance, I handled a case where the couple were in the middle of a divorce, and the woman testified that sometimes she would step away from her phone for some time. On that occasion, she had stepped away from the phone for about an hour. When she came back, the man had called her 150 times.
I don't believe that.
True fact.
And they were going through divorce.
Yes.
So calling her for what?
Who knows? 150 times. With that, anybody would feel harassed.
Wow.
And then it says that whether conversation ensues or not. So sometimes in a typical stalking situation, somebody calls you but will not speak, will just be breathing on the phone. That could amount to domestic violence.
Wow.
Yes. It says that repeatedly sending, delivering, or causing the delivery of letters, telegrams, packages, facsimiles, that's fax, electronic mail, or other objects or messages to the harassed person's residence, school, or workplace. So you are bombarding me now. WhatsApp is a thing. You are bombarding me with WhatsApp, SMS, etc.
101.
etc. Or engaging in any other menacing behavior.
Okay.
So there's this woman who is a friend, and after her divorce, apparently her husband wanted her back. And in a bid to show her that he was madly in love with her, when she's coming to church, she feels that somebody is following her.
Okay.
She turns around and there he is a few meters behind her. Follow her to church. He won't enter the church, but he will wait for service to close.
And then just follow her.
Follow her back home. Instances like that all could amount to domestic violence.
Wow.
So if you're in love with someone or you think you're in love with someone, remember that a perceived relationship could also give rise to a domestic relationship. You are calling her, she says she's not interested, but you want to show her that
I really love you.
I really love you. So to the extent that your efforts to woo her is making her feel harassed, or making the gentleman feel harassed, depending on the situation, all of that could amount to domestic violence.
Okay. So what are the penalties to domestic violence?
All right. So if you are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted on charges of domestic violence, the law says that you could be fined up to 500 penalty units, a fine of up to 500 penalty units. So that's the maximum. And a penalty unit is worth 12 cedis.
Okay.
So 12 times 500 if they give you the maximum fine. Now, you may also be in prison for a term of up to 2 years.
Okay.
That's what the law says. Or it could be both.
Okay.
So you could be fined, you could be imprisoned together.
Okay.
And then you may also be required to compensate the victim of the domestic violence. So those are the penalties if you go through criminal prosecution. However, we need to be aware that in addition to the criminal aspect, the victim may decide to bring a civil action against you for damages.
Okay.
Right.
The emotional trauma.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you compensate her in money.
Oh, okay.
For the abuse, the trauma, etc., as you said, that she has suffered.
Okay. I remember last week you said something that you could report on behalf of somebody.
Yes.
I've forgotten the legal term you used, but I remember you said you could report. If you look at the video we just watched, the case happened in Ohio, where right in the presence of the victim's brother, the gentleman, the supposedly husband, who is a pastor, and I don't know who made him a pastor, said, if I don't kill your sister, don't call me a pastor. And the brother of the victim actually wanted to call the police, and the victim said, no, you don't need to, please don't do it. Did he need the permission of the sister to call the police?
He did not need the permission of the sister, and you do not need the permission of the victim. Once you see that a crime is being committed in your presence, please, as I said last week, perform your civic duty. you will be saving a life. If he had made that call,
the lady wouldn't have died.
Exactly. She
It's
wouldn't
so
have
sad.
died. You know, and it doesn't matter if the person is pleading with you not to report. A lot of the time, their psychological mindset is not balanced.
I always say that they are sick.
Yes.
They are depressed. There's something.
Properly. They are not thinking properly. So you, the third party, you can be more objective in that situation.
Okay.
So please report and save the life of the victim. And I also want to say that in a traditional setting, a lot of the time when you report the perpetrator, his family members would shun you, make it seem as if you are the bad
one.
That is really unfortunate. As a matter of fact, they should be the ones to help their relative so that their relative will repent.
Okay.
Because if they don't, their relative may end up in jail.
Like this one.
Exactly. May end up in jail. And then, you know, the maximum sentence you can have under the DV Act, the Domestic Violence Act, is 2 years. But when you kill that person, they're going to charge you with murder.
Okay.
So do you want to spend the rest of your life, serve a life sentence over something that you could have avoided, or your son could have avoided if you, the mother, the father, the relative of the perpetrator, had taken steps to stop him? You need to consider that before you go and express your anger and disappointment towards the victim who is taking lawful steps to protect himself or herself.
So what is the protection order for victims like this? I mean, assuming the lady, I won't say now, with what you have taught us, I don't need the permission.
Right.
So assuming the brother of the lady had reported, what would have been the protection given for the victim?
All right. So if we are talking about protection orders, then we are talking about a course of action that the victim can take outside the criminal process.
Come again.
We are talking about a course of action that the victim can take outside the criminal process, i.e. have him arrested and prosecuted. You can go to court. Bring an application. And the law says that you can even bring your application ex parte. Ex parte means that you don't have to do it with notice to the other party. So it's just you going to court, telling the court that this is my situation. So I need you to put certain orders in place for me. And those orders are aimed at preventing the perpetrator from committing those acts against you. It could include him having to sign a bond to be of good behavior. Now, in instances where the judge feels it is expedient to bring the other party in, then you would have to serve him so that he can appear. But there's a whole range of orders that the victim can have. It also includes not having the person or the person keeping away from you 50 meters away from you. So if you're in a public place, you cannot come close to me beyond 50 meters, etc. So if you look at section 15, it says that the protection order may prohibit the respondent, i.e. the perpetrator, from physically assaulting or using physical force against the applicant.
Lord Jifa, when we talk about protection order, do you always have to go to the police station to get the protection order?
No, you can go straight to court.
You can go straight? Oh, wow.
You can go straight to court and then file your application.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So you don't need to go.
So you don't need to go through the police?
No, you don't need to.
Oh, okay. You can just go straight to the...
you can go straight.
Okay.
But again, the advantage for me for reporting to the police is that you have the state coming in to prosecute your case. In the case where the perpetrator is a very serious threat, he may need to be incarcerated. So that's when you would I think you should go for the criminal process so that he can be removed from society and other people would be protected as well. So all the instances of domestic violence, the protection order is aimed at preventing the perpetrator from committing those actions. So, as I said, a protection order may bind the respondent to be of good behavior. It may direct him to seek counseling or rehabilitative service. It may direct him to relocate but continue to pay the rent if the two of you are living in the same house. You hear about some of these things happening in the Western countries.
That's right.
Where a couple are having such issues and then they would ask the man or the perpetrator to leave the home, but then the woman continues to stay.
That's right.
It is not foreign to our law. It is available here. So you can ask for it. It could require the respondent to relinquish property to the applicant. And then pay the applicant for any damages caused to the property of the applicant. It may require him to pay for medical expenses incurred by the victim. So all of those things are available to you under the protection order.
When we talk about occupation orders, what exactly does it mean? I hear occupation orders, what does it mean?
So when we talk about occupation order, it is one of the reliefs that could come under protection orders. Now, it simply means that the court may order the respondent, in the case of marriage, to leave the matrimonial home. Just as I explained earlier, to leave the matrimonial home for the victim and if they are children with the children. And the interesting part is that when you are gone, you will still continue to pay the rent.
Can you imagine?
Yes. And the landlord is enjoined to provide any information under the terms of the lease to the victim if he or she so requires. So that is an occupation order. And of course, the law says that the landlord cannot evict the victim.
The landlord cannot evict the victim. I like that.
So after you have gone for the occupation order and the perpetrator has been ordered by the court to move from the matrimonial home, he cannot go and conspire with the landlord to move you out of the home. No, he can't do that. And the good thing is that before such an order is made, the court would require a social inquiry report or a psychological report, you know, to even determine how the absence of the person will affect the whole family before that decision is made.
We hear occupation orders outside the country a lot. In America, we see it all the time. In the European world, you see it all the time. Are you sure it's something that really happens here in Ghana? Because I've never seen it here in Ghana, where one person is made to leave and the victim. Honestly, I've never seen or heard about it in Ghana. Have you seen it happen?
I have, except that in the instance, it didn't happen such that the perpetrator left the matrimonial home. But rather, the court ordered that he should go and lease a place for the victim. And so that took...
Well, this is what I see all the time.
That took the victim out of the space of domestic violence until the case was finally decided upon. But once the law provides for it, it can be done. It can be done. We may not be familiar with this, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. Yes.
So now we are looking at domestic violence, where the violence is committed by a child. What happens? We know that children below 18 cannot, you know, be taken to court.
No, they can.
Oh, they can?
Yes, the age for criminal liability is So, below 12 years,
Okay.
there's no criminal liability for a child. Below 12 years.
Okay.
Yes. So, if an 11-year-old,
okay,
a 10-year-old commits a criminal offense, you cannot charge that person.
Okay.
But from that age up to 18,
okay,
where you are a juvenile, you will be referred to the juvenile court.
Okay.
Aha, and you'll be taken through that process. So if a person of 17 years, let's say you live in a compound house with your grandmother, you are 17 years, and your grandmother instigates you to go and attack a co-tenant.
Okay.
We've learned that living in a compound house could create a domestic
relationship. Happens all the time.
Yes. You, the child who is doing that, you can be arrested, but then you'll be prosecuted through the juvenile courts.
Okay.
And not the regular courts, the adult courts.
So
yes.
could you go to prison?
Yes,
a 40-year-old?
Yes, you can. There are juvenile detention centers.
Oh, juvenile ones.
Yes.
Okay.
There are juvenile detention centers where children who are in conflict with the law can undergo such sentences.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Last week, I promised the audience I was going to come in with a pastor. You are talking about the legal side. We also want to see the biblical side. Does the Bible say anything about domestic violence? What are the pastors supposed to do? Because most often, you see, especially women, being abused. And we as pastors make a lot of mistakes. Oh, you know, you don't have to divorce. Divorce is a sin. Oh, let's counsel him a bit. Let's talk to him a bit. Oh, he might change. Oh, it's okay. Give him a second chance. We want to find out from the biblical and the religious point of view what is happening. So at this time, I would invite one of our pastors, Reverend Kim Foley, to join us. Welcome back to Family Life with Mama Rita. We've been discussing about domestic violence. In the past 2 weeks, last week and today, we've had Reverend Jifa coming to talk to us about the legal aspect of domestic violence, what we are supposed to do as citizens, and what we are supposed to do as church members. Today, I have brought in one of our pastors. You are actually going to see him for the very first time on the screen. Reverend Kim Foley is the executive pastor. Hey! Other churches will say resident pastor. So he's actually the executive pastor of Royal House Chapel, Ahimfie. And pleasure is mine to welcome to Family Life, Reverend Kim Foley.
Thank you very much, Mommy.
Reverend Kim Foley, you are welcome.
Thank you.
And you look sharp.
Thank
I
you.
like your political suits with your hat, matching your socks and your shoes. You are not easy. Thank you so much for what you do for Royal House Chapel, Ahimfie. I know anytime the Apostle General is not in, you manage everything, all the groups, everything pertaining to the headquarters of Royal House Chapel. And I want to say God bless you for the work you are doing.
Thank you, Mommy.
I hope you know what we've been discussing.
Yes, Mommy.
Domestic violence.
Sure.
People blame the church for, I wouldn't say for women, but for individuals in a marriage going through domestic violence. And sometimes we sit down and it gets so bad to the point that one of the individuals, what is the church doing about domestic violence?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Mama Rita. It's a pleasure being on set with you. Let me take the opportunity to once again say Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
It's been so phenomenal. And we thank you for all that you do for God and country.
Thank you.
On the subject of DV.
Now that you said Happy Mother's Day, well, just last Sunday was Mother's Day. Yeah. And I want to wish every mother happy Mother's Day. I hope it's not late and it's not over yet. My darling, on Sunday, I heard a message from the Apostle General. I mean, I have never heard before on a Mother's Day. I don't know, everybody is different, but I was so blessed. I felt, because of the work I am doing, I felt that here was a man of God that was speaking for women and speaking for mothers. Yeah. Mothers are doing everything, and most often it is unnoticed. And he said, for any individual that you have a woman in your life that you are not treating well, in other words, you are not even born again, you are not saved, you don't have salvation. And this is what the man of God said. If you didn't listen, you didn't live stream with us, please go back and live stream with us from Mother's Day Ahimfie. And every woman that is doing a very good job, God bless you. And I say, Ayeko. Please, if you haven't celebrated your wife yet, go back and celebrate her. If you're a child and you haven't celebrated your mother yet, go back and celebrate your mother. And on this note, I want to say a very big thank you to my children. Oh my God. I had such a good time on Sunday. I thought I was tired. I mean, after all the weeks preaching and, traveling and, everything, I thought I was too tired to do anything. But they took me out for a dinner. Oh my God. I really had fun. Wow. We chatted and chatted. Reverend Kifoli, wait till your children grow. You will see the show they will do to your wife.
Wait long enough.
We chatted. By the time we turned, I mean, everybody had left us in the restaurant. I mean, we had such a good time with our daddy. Oh, he was so envious, but don't worry. Father's Day is coming. But Father's Day, I will make sure that I am part of the dinner. So please, what is the church doing? And thank you for reminding me that we just finished celebrating Mother's Day.
Mothers and all mother figures. Thank you once again for having me. I think the Bible position on social cohesion and peaceful coexistence is so clear.
Okay.
Such that the Bible will say, love your neighbors as you would yourself.
Okay.
So that set the tone that peaceful coexistence is the way to go.
Okay.
Talking about what the church's position is on domestic violence, I think the church is supposed to accentuate the voice of God.
Okay.
The church is supposed to be the implementing agent of what God purpose and plan for humankind is. I don't know about other churches, but I think Royal House Chapel, we are in the forefront of making sure that this position is accentuated at all times, taking family serious as a point in case. You have been championing this program ever since, and thank God for the number of families and marriages and relationships that this program had really touched. There's no question about it. So that said, the church is supposed to be the agent that will bring to bear what God positioned as far as peaceful coexistence is concerned. And it's strange that most of the abuses that we record or see, some of them are supposed to be coming from Christian families.
It's so sad.
So sad. Well, you can't fault those who tabulate those, because in Ghana, for instance, a greater number of the population is said to be Christian anyway.
They claim
They claim. Whether they are practicing Christians or they are nominal Christians, they are all lumped up together.
They sit in the church Sunday after Sunday. Sunday after Sunday, they hear the words. They pray, they worship, they praise God. Yet, women can wake up in the middle of the night, pour hot water on their husbands.
Wow, wow.
I don't know if you've heard such cases. Some people can actually take their shoes, the heel of their shoes,
wow,
and hit their husbands in bed.
That's serious.
And some men are also, within a second, are slapping the women from your decks.
That's right.
Being the resident pastor or the executive pastor, I know that a lot of such cases come to you. That's Do you have any of such practical examples we can learn from?
Certainly, certainly. I heard Reverend Jifa brought to the fore how that domestic violence is not only related to physical abuse, but harassment and making your partner feel uncomfortable consistently can be considered as part of the abuse. I had one that really came as a big surprise. This young lady met a friend who had come from America, and they were acquaintances. They weren't in a serious relationship. It happened that a few months after they met, the lady had a serious health challenge. She was hospitalized for a couple of months. It turned out that this man became her good Samaritan or a savior at that point, bore all her medical expenses. It was good to the mother. So after that, I think the man began to have a soft spot for this girl. And the mother, of course, seeing the man is well, financially stable, we want the daughter to go to such a man. But for some reason, the lady wasn't
interested.
Yes. It happened that the man was a married man, had a wife in the States.
Wow.
Want to take this lady on as a mistress and was willing to marry her. So the mother of the lady, was actually pushing for it. And eventually the lady fell for it. So they had a traditional marriage here. The lady felt she was indebted to this man. Because he came in for her at the time she needed help most. So all along in the relationship, she felt indebted to this man. And unknown to this lady, the man, who also happened to be technically savvy somebody, bought gadgets for the lady, phones, tablets, and what have you.
Wow.
And in so doing, tracked or tapped into those devices. So even though he's in the States, she's been micromanaging the wife here.
Through the devices.
Through the devices. Whoever the wife chat with, the man is able to know. Wherever the lady goes, the man is able to know. So the man will call, why did you go to this place and you didn't tell me?
The lady thought the man was seeing visions.
So at the point the lady was there, this man, what is it that he has that makes him able to monitor me? Then before the scale fell off the lady's eye, a lot has been done. She was emotionally stressed.
My God.
It's like anytime she had to talk with somebody, she had to look over her shoulders, who is listening, who is eavesdropping. It was so much of a trauma for her. And then she said to the mother, I don't think I can continue with this relationship.
Wow.
So this one form of domestic abuse, which is not physical, which is not wife battery, but it's enough to drive you crazy. So the mother of the lady says to her, well, this man had come in at the right time. He's our savior. Everything. Why would you divorce such a man? Even though you are going through, just bear it. People are praying to have such a relationship they are not getting. So just forget about your
African mothers,
your depression, and just bear with the man. So the lady came. I said, well, unfortunately, you got married to a man and you are supposed to live with the man, not your mother.
That's right.
If you feel you've had it enough and it's stressing you, depressing you, it's going to send you suicidal, it's high time you advise yourself.
That's right.
Don't listen to your mother and the fact that she has so much to gain economically and die in the relationship. So this is one aspect of how domestic abuse can drive partners crazy.
Before I come back to you, Reverend Chifa, what does the law say about this? Where I'm married to you, but you can hack into my phone, my devices, and know every movement of mine. I mean, is it legally correct? Yes, I'm your wife. So you need to monitor. Would you say this is harassment?
Oh, it's totally harassment.
Okay.
You are stalking me. You are tracking my movements. You are taking away my liberty.
My liberty.
It's affecting me psychologically.
Okay.
It's affecting me emotionally.
Okay.
You are definitely abusing me.
So I can report.
Why not?
I hope somebody is listening. Sometimes we take these things for granted. And either we think that the man has gone for some juju or the man has some powers. He doesn't have any power. My darling, he is going through your phone. Check, shine your eyes, open your eyes. Reverend Kinfoli.
Yes, mommy.
I know a lot of people blame the church for certain deaths.
Yeah.
Why? Because the lady is going through domestic violence. It starts with emotional abuse. Came to see the pastors.
Yeah.
I know these things don't happen in Royal House, but it happens a lot in churches.
Yeah.
Goes to see the pastors. Oh, it's okay. You'll be fine. This is only an insult. Oh, we'll be praying about it. Oh, don't worry. I'll even fast with you. And then the next time the woman comes and says, oh, the man slapped me. And the pastor says, oh, don't worry. We'll handle it. We'll handle it. We'll talk to the man. No police comes in, nothing. The next thing we hear, the man has murdered. What should the church do? When a member comes to see us, that my husband is either emotionally abusing me or physically abusing me or somebody is harassing me, what do we have to do? Because I know a lot of churches make that mistake, and a lot of pastors make that mistake. Why? Because to us, there must be no divorce until death must separate us. But you see that the person is dying slowly in the marriage. Slowly. You knew the person before the person got married. All of a sudden, the person has changed. All of a sudden, the person comes to church and the person is not happy. Yeah. What do we have to do? What do the pastors have to do? What do the counselors in the churches have to do?
Thank you very much. I think the church has a lot to do. In most churches, we have the pre-marital counseling system.
That's right.
What I don't think a lot of them have is the post-marital counseling system, where they will track or they will follow up on the young couple and find out how they are doing. Like you rightly said, these are issues that whenever they crop up, the last thing that comes to mind is divorce. We want to try as much as possible to make sure they smoke the peace pipe and then they exist peacefully. And the reason why it is so is that most of the victims try to play tough. I mean, they try to contain everything as much as they could and some come out very, very late when it is way too much for them to bear, by which time they are emotionally broken, and by which time the batterer or the abuser seem to have gained foothold, on their victims. So for me, I think we need to put up early warning detecting system.
Okay.
Yes, where we are able to go back to our counselees who are now married couple after a period of time and then have a chat with them. We are not here to pry into your privacy, but just as we counseled you before you came to become husband and wife, if there are challenges, there is absolutely nothing wrong if you air it out or you vent it out. It's very, very key. And as much as possible, the church should be flexible enough.
Okay.
It is true God says he hates divorce.
Okay.
But I think in the New Testament there was instance where divorce is acceptable.
Okay.
Apostle General just last week was making a statement in passing that much as God hates divorce and we do everything to make sure that marriages are held intact, it will be foolhardy for you to die in that relationship.
That's
when
true.
The husband had reduced you to a punching bag. The children that you're thinking, well, if I were to opt out, they would suffer. You would die and leave them anyway.
You die and leave them
Why
anyway.
don't you leave? I mean, you need to find a way of keeping body and soul first, and then you take care of the children after. So pastors and counselors, as far as the church is concerned, need to up our game.
Okay.
It is good that anytime such reports come to us, we take the necessary step. But I think if we are also able to pry and figure out if we see changes at the earlier stages, we'll be able to nip them in the bud. The strange thing about abusers, I've found out, is that much as you could see them with the eye that they are devil incarnate, I mean, will you be surprised that some of the abusers don't know that they are actually abusive?
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I was just trying to make a sense of
okay.
what Bible said in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 and 23.
Okay.
Where husbands are supposed to love their wife. What the Bible said in Matthew chapter 22, verse 38. Right. Where we're supposed to love our neighbors.
That's right.
The question is that if the fellow doesn't love himself well enough, how can he love his neighbor?
That is true.
And the issue about people not loving themselves, people find it scandalous. How do you mean, I don't love myself?
I don't love myself.
There's a term called masochism.
Aish!
Masochism.
Aish! Please break it down.
I'll break it down. Masochism is a practice where people derive sexual gratification by inflicting physical pain and humiliation
on their partners.
On their partners or themselves.
On themselves.
So such a person who is so insensitive to himself is abusing himself,
abusing himself, like cutting himself.
He doesn't find anything wrong with it. Of course, he won't find anything wrong visiting the same on his partner. So there are abusers who are paranoid. Their orientation tells them that whatever they are doing is okay.
Okay.
So for them, they don't see anything wrong.
Wow.
So if you happen to live with such a person, well, the ultimate result will be death. And that's where pastors come in. We need to pry, we need to probe, we need to ask questions.
Okay.
They may want to hide it because, well, let's keep to our bubble.
That's right.
To our space. But
that's right.
We need not wait until it is long overdue where we can't do anything about it.
Okay. Reverend Kimfoli.
Yes, mommy.
I heard Lawyer Jifa so well, where she said, we should do our civic duties and then our religious duties.
Great.
Civic duties and our religious duties by reporting. Would you be wrong if you have two church members, a husband and a wife, both very active in the church, tithe payers in the church, and then one of them calls you my husband or my wife beat me up, would you be wrong as a pastor to call the police on the abuser? Would you be wrong as a pastor to do that? Where both of them are church members, both of them are tithe payers, and I've come to see some of the abusers, the men who have money, they provide, they bring big tithes to the church, they are buying cars for the pastors. What do you do?
That's a
If I listen to Reverend Jifa very well.
Yeah. So I agree with you. The attack must be too prone, civic duty,
and religious.
So, like you did mention, a call came through. First of all, as much as possible, being a pastor, I'll try to broker a peace.
Okay.
First of all, I'll ask, is it a first time abuse? If it is, well, you give the man the benefit of the doubt, try to find a time with the two, and try to make a sense out of what happened. But if it is someone who is recalcitrant.
No, even if it's the second. You know, and what all the cases I've handled, Reverend Kim Foley, these men will come apologizing, crying.
Holier than thou.
Will come with the gifts. The cases I've handled in the diaspora, they'll come with flowers, come with chocolates. In this part of the world, people will come with cloth, ATL, GTP, and beg.
Yeah.
And when they are coming to you as a pastor, they even have their peace offering to say, oh, I am so sorry. It will never happen again.
Okay.
Take my word. The first time, you broke a peace.
Yeah.
The second time,
Worse.
Would you allow this to go a third time and a fourth?
Certainly not. Matter of fact, the police system is part of social intervention to ensure that there's peace and order in our ecosystem. So it is not out of
place
to recommend that.
Okay.
Except that, like I said, we want to try as much as possible to see whether you'll be able to, with the help of God, Holy Ghost, to bring some peace. If it doesn't prove helpful, I don't think it will be out of place at all. For all you know, the police coming in will put some fear of God into the abuser's heart, and it might turn a new leaf. So, to that extent, I'll recommend the police coming in.
Okay.
And I don't think the pastor will be faulted for this, especially when it has been one too many times. The life of the victim is at stake here.
I have had to call the police so many times.
Oh, you have?
So many times. I have lost track of it. Because 2 a.m.
Nobody is there.
A wife is calling you,
distress call.
Mama Rita, if you don't come to my aid, and you can hear her scream and shout that the man is beaten, what do you do? I can't do anything. All I can do is to call the police. Lawyer Jifa,
I totally agree with you. And I think that we need to distinguish between forgiving the perpetrator and doing the right thing according to law. As a Christian, you are expected to forgive.
Okay.
So, as a pastor, you should definitely encourage the victim to forgive.
Okay.
You yourself, as a pastor, you should operate in such a way that the victim will not feel that he's being stigmatized, etc.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't follow due process. If somebody is being abused, I believe that, well, according to law, you should always be, or rather, you should always put yourself in a position where you offer protection to the victim. So the couple come to your office first time. you counsel them. He comes again full of tears, apologies. It doesn't mean that you should get all emotional. Oh, he's my sheep. He buys me gifts, etc. As pastors, you need to be careful of conflict of interest situations.
I like that.
So that you don't trade somebody's life
for gifts.
For gifts.
And for tithes.
And for tithes.
And for big offering.
Exactly.
And for harvest chairman.
Exactly. So remember what the law says. As soon as the person comes to tell you that I am in an abusive situation, I am being beaten, I am being sexually abused, etc., do what the law says. Because if you don't, as I said, you are empowering the perpetrator. And you may actually also have charges brought against you. Because, for instance, in the case of protection orders, it is not just the main perpetrator, but also the people who are around the perpetrator encouraging him. You know, all those people could be cited in a domestic violence case. So would you rather do the right thing and save the situation, or find yourself also having a protection order imposed upon you, or being cited as a respondent in a domestic violence case? I don't think God would be pleased with you.
And Lawyer Jifa and Reverend Kim Foley, what I have noticed, most often, when the victims come to us, is always not the first.
By the time they come out,
it is so difficult for them to report the very first time. And like I said, the men will always come apologizing, crying, begging, and bringing you gifts. So most often, the victims will not come at the first instance. And sometimes it's so difficult for them to come. Why? Because they dress so well. They are respected in the society. For them to come and say, my husband beats me, means that it's something that might have happened for a long time. So I by this medium, pleading with pastors, let's not downplay these things. Because some of these cases that we have heard, I'm telling you, the men were in church, the women were in church. The men were communicants, the women were going to communion. And yet, to our shame, this thing happened. So I believe that if every pastor, every pastor's wife, every leader is being what word should I say? Responsible. I want to use something responsible. Religiously responsible or
legally responsible.
Legally good. That's the word I want. If we want to be legally responsible and religiously responsible, I believe that something could come out of it. I see children even go to school and they have cuts on their bodies. And no teacher is responsible enough to ask what happened. Who beat you?
Why were you beaten?
Why were you beaten? I mean, outside the country, a child goes with, the teacher doesn't need the permission of the child to call social services. They will probe what is happening at home. The child comes to school crying. They will probe. The child is always late. They will probe. We know, I don't know if you heard this case, where a child always came to school very late. Always an hour or two very late. And, you know, nothing was happening until one wise teacher said, you know what, this is not normal. Let me find out from this girl. And you know, the first instance, they will hold back. They won't want to talk because they've been told, if you talk, you will die. or I will kill you. So they won't want to talk. So you would have to, encourage the child to come out, and only to realize that the parents were always, going to work every day, leave home very early. By 7, mommy has left home. By 7:30, daddy leaves home. So what they did was they got a motor rider to be picking the child to school. Apparently, any time the motor rider came for the child,
Don't say it, mommy. What we are thinking.
Will go home with the child and rape her.
Wow.
Career parents, obsessed with their work that whatever is happening on the blind side.
No, but how would they know? They need to pay the school fees of the child. If your work demands that by 6:30 you are supposed to be at work, 6 o'clock you are supposed to be at work.
Couldn't you observe any change?
It's possible they come back tired.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is that everybody needs to be legally responsible. Let's watch out for one another. You were a pastor, you were a group leader. You saw the lady before she was married. Yeah. During worship, she wasn't crying. All of a sudden, prayer time, she's crying. All of a sudden, worship time, she's crying. The message, please don't think it's the Holy Ghost and it's anointed. It is not. I always tell husbands, I can always tell when the women come to the altar. I mean, you can tell those who are suffering in their marriages. I mean, you can tell when somebody comes to the altar looking for a child. You know it. A job, you know it. Yeah. And you can tell those who are emotionally being drained at home. I don't know if you've noticed.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Have you handled any case like that? You have handled a lot of cases now. You are torn between being a pastor and being a lawyer.
Yes.
People.
Yes, that's very true. I have to be careful because you can't always bring 100% of the law into the church.
That's right.
Context.
I know.
So sometimes you try to create a balance. Yeah. But again, at the end of the day, whatever decision is made has to be in the best interest of the victim, not the perpetrator.
Okay.
I always say that till death do us part does not mean that death has to come through the hands of the spouse.
I like that. Please say it again.
Till death do us part does not mean that death has to come through the hands of the spouse. So if you have to remove yourself from that situation, then you should to save your life. We are not saying that by all means go and get a divorce. Being spiritual people, we understand that sometimes people can act under certain influences. You need to remove yourself and spend time in the presence of God, praying. If he's acting based on spiritual influences, the prayer will solve that issue. But you need to live to be able to pray. You need to live to be able to even think and fashion out solutions. Get a job, take care of yourself. And I always say that in a relationship, don't put your entire survival and everything, your family's upkeep and well-being on one person. You will begin to think that he owns you. So when he says jump, you have to jump. When he says lie down, you have to lie down. You have to.
When he says you are stupid, you say thank you.
You accept it into your spirit until it begins to define you. So these are things we need to take cognizance of and then work on them. And having practiced for a long time, when I was outside the church, I know that a lot of abuse happens in church settings when you go to court, the divorce court is full of Christian marriages.
Wow.
Christian marriages.
Wow.
Yes. You would hardly find other types of marriages. It is mainly Christian marriages. So it means that something is happening that as pastors and as leaders we are not taking note of. We are too focused on presenting a good image. Oh, this is Mr. So and so and Mrs. So and so. They are happily married and everybody claps and we are okay. But I don't know what's happening inside the homes of those people. And I know that if you are in leadership and you are suffering abuse, as we said last week, it's very, very difficult to come out because, again, for some reason, the psychological effect turns the victim's mind into they rather trying to be protectors of the perpetrators.
That is the thing.
It's a little hard to understand because even God created us such that when danger is coming, you run away from the danger.
That's right.
Adrenaline kicks in and you run away. But in this instance, they rather go and embrace and try to protect the person. So we need to change our way of thinking so that we can protect these victims. And as I said, if you don't, you empower the perpetrator and then you cause a cycle.
That's right.
A cycle because there are people who are watching, young minds who are watching, who are absorbing all these things. They'll grow up and then mirror what they've seen.
Please don't forget to send us your questions, your comments, and your story. We will be closing next week. I am coming with victims. I want them to tell their story. And if you are going through the same kind of situation, please speak out. Seek help. Every time in our newspapers, we are hearing wives who have been butchered, who have been shot, who have been killed. Don't die a foolish death. I will take the closing remarks from Reverend Kim Foley and Reverend Lawyer Jifa, and then I will see you again, same time, same day, next week.
On the point of Lawyer Jifa, where he says most of the abusers and perpetrators were simply mirroring the ills of society, it just dropped in my spirit if in our process of premarital counseling, as part of our due diligence work, we can find out from the would-be couple, especially the men, whether they've been exposed to these kind of abuses.
Yeah.
Because it has a way of influencing.
Yes, certainly.
Their perception
if the father was
marriage.
like that,
he grew up in that.
Yeah,
maybe
he would
you
be
have
like
a semblance of a born-again person, but when the marriage begins to play out in reality, then we begin to see all these things. So that can also help in a way. And that said, there was an interesting scripture I read.
That's right.
Genesis chapter 16, verse 9. From 8 to 9.
That's right.
Hagar, the maidservant of Sarah.
That's right.
Had left home, pregnant, and was heading to God knows where. Why? Because after being given to her master, Abraham, in the stead of Madam Sarah, and he was put in the family way. Whatever might have happened, Mama Sarah, Mrs. Abraham was not too comfortable. And the Bible says specifically that Sarah dealt with Hagar harshly. So much so that the maidservant had to leave with how many months pregnant. And then the angel met her on the way and said to her, well, with all the abuse and all the inhumane treatment that you have undergone, still go back to your madam and go and submit. So
what a story.
Go.
I was going to ask if the angel appeared to Sarah too and told her to change her ways.
That would have been a beautiful, scenario. We didn't hear that one. The Bible didn't capture that one. So you see,
I believe the Bible would have done that.
So when feminists are trying to interpret the Bible and they look at that piece of scripture, they are likely to say that the Bible is not too fair. This is a lady who has been abused.
Yeah.
To use the plain word,
this
was
is
harshly,
not feminist. This would be human rights advocates.
Human rights advocates. And the angel is supposed to be the mouthpiece of God, telling the young lady, go back and submit. Forget about the abuse. Submit. In today's context, can we admit this one under any circumstances? Obviously, no. So that's where the interpretation of the Bible becomes very key. You must look at it from existential point of view. Things that pertain to the Old Testament might not necessarily be what is in vogue now, because in the Old Testament, when you are a maid servant to your madam, she owns you.
Yeah.
And God was playing to the cultural norms at that time. But in our days, it's different. So any pastor, before you hurriedly conclude that, well, go back and submit, and we are praying about it, just look at it from this angle as well. She might end up dying before you even had the opportunity to sit both of them down to counsel. It's very key. So misinterpreting and not putting the scripture in context and also fuel the many instances of domestic abuse and violence that we've had, because the pastors are careful, very careful, for want of a better word, not to divorce or separate what God
has put together.
You have to first determine if God put them together.
Well, once
That's
God
another
on
thing.
the altar, we presume God put it together.
Reverend Jifa, your closing remarks.
So I want to say that domestic violence is a crime.
It's a crime.
Don't get caught up in it, either as a perpetrator or as a victim. However, if you find yourself as a victim, then know that there are reliefs available for you under the law. Don't be afraid. Don't let anybody brainwash you. Reach out and ask for help. Help is just a phone call away, a friend away, but wherever it is very, very close by. So please ask for help.
Ask for help. Thank you so much. I will come your way again, same time next week. Domestic violence. God bless you.